Thank you.
Glenn Whitley, County Judge.
Here.
Roy Charles Brooks, Commissioner Precinct 1.
Present.
Devin Allen, Commissioner Precinct 2.
Here.
Gary Fickus, Commissioner Precinct 3.
Here.
J.D. Johnson, Commissioner Precinct 4.
Here.
Constitutes a quorum.
Thank you. Our invocation today will be delivered by Charlie Pryor from the Calvary Cathedral International Church in Fort Worth. After the invocation, please remain standing for our pledges. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me. It's a real honor to be here, County Judge Whitley, Commissioners. It's a special day, and thank you for honoring God by praying before your court. Let's pray. Father, I pray for Judge Whitley, for each commissioner right now. I pray for wisdom to do business from the Bible that only you can give. I pray a wisdom that basically has been the foundation and guidance for this great nation for over 200 years. I pray, oh God, that you give County Judge Whitley and the commissioners understanding to know exactly what to do in every situation. I pray you give each of them favor to get accomplished everything that needs to be accomplished. And I pray your supernatural blessings on Judge Whitley, each commissioner, their families, and this court. And I pray it in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayes.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the Court, we have two announcements as it relates to the agenda this morning. The first is under the Sheriff's Department, which would be item 9L1. We're going to ask that that contract be held for 1 week. We have one or two more questions we need to clarify on that, and then we'll bring that back to you all. And then, second of all, on the agenda, talking with the District Attorney's Office, there is not a need to go into closed session today, so we will not have a closed session meeting. Today we do have several public hearings, and just to note, Your Honor, I believe we do have some audience participation forms on those. Thank you.
Thank you. Court members, you have before you the minutes of our regular meeting of August the 27th.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. We have some proclamations this morning. Commissioner Brooks, I believe you have the first one.
Thank you, Your Honor. September is Prostate Cancer Awareness Month. And as a prostate cancer survivor, that means a lot to me. And it gives me a great deal of pleasure to recognize the work of the individuals who will come forward this morning to accept this proclamation proclaiming the month of September to be Prostate Cancer Awareness Month in Tarrant County. And the proclamation reads, whereas prostate cancer constitutes 20% of all male cancer diagnoses and 10% of all male cancer deaths. And whereas in Texas, an estimated 10,600 new cases of prostate cancer and an estimated 1,900 deaths will occur in 2019. And whereas African American men with a family history of prostate cancer, and men exposed to Agent Orange are at highest risk. And whereas prostate cancer is the second most diagnosed cancer in American men, only behind skin cancer, and the second leading cause of cancer death in men behind lung cancer. And whereas this year, approximately 164,690 men will be diagnosed with prostate cancer in the United States. That's one man every 3 minutes, and roughly 31,620 will die this year from the disease, which is one man every 16.6 minutes. And whereas 1 in 9 men are diagnosed with prostate cancer in their lifetimes, African American men are the highest risk for the disease, with a rate of 1 in 7 men. African American men are also 2.1 times more likely to die from the disease. And whereas education regarding prostate cancer and early detection strategies are critical to saving lives and preserving and protecting our families. And whereas as all men are at risk from prostate cancer, the citizens of Tarrant County are encouraged to increase their personal awareness of prostate cancer and of the importance of prostate cancer screenings. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the Commissioners Court of Tarrant County, do hereby proclaim September 2019 as Prostate Cancer Awareness Month in Tarrant County. In witness whereof, we have hereunto set our hands and caused the seal of Tarrant County to be affixed this 3rd day of September 2019, and I move approval of this proclamation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
The following individuals are here to accept this proclamation: Wolfram Blattner, past president of the North Texas Prostate Cancer Coalition; Tom Brown, vice president of the North Texas Prostate Cancer Coalition; Diana Brown, Monty Knapp, and Melissa Moreno from the Moncrief Cancer Institute. Would you all please join me at the podium?
Y'all gonna have to scooch in. Wait for 3 flashes.
You done? Thank you, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. I'm Wolfram Blattner, past president of the North Texas Prostate Cancer Coalition. The proclamation that was just read includes statistics that all men and women should become aware of. The purpose of presenting this proclamation is to use this opportunity and platform to address Tarrant County citizens, both men and women, who are watching or will watch the video of this meeting or will read the proclamation. Hopefully, it will not be glossed over as something of no importance. Citizens should be aware of this disease so they can discuss it with a doctor. Its occurrence can be detected and monitored by a simple blood test. Awareness and early detection still are the key to defeating this disease. I'm a 14-year prostate cancer survivor. I brought a small group, a few survivors and supporters. This is just a part of a much larger group. We have a survivor sitting on the court as well. Wives, mothers, and daughters are a major part of our group because they too become part of the normal when a husband, son, brother, or father is diagnosed. All members of this group have had their lives touched by this disease. Included with the long-term survivors are members of the medical community, acquaintances of survivors and spouses, mothers and children who have lost loved ones to this disease. The disease can strike any man. The Internet has a wealth of information on this disease. If citizens want further information, they can Google North Texas Prostate Cancer Coalition. The next opportunity to get free screening for this disease is on Saturday, September 21, downtown Fort Worth, as part of the car show run by Tarrant with the Wheels of Wellness Group. Thank you again, members of this court, for the opportunity to raise citizens' awareness of this major health issue. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Now, September is also National Preparedness Month, and so I'm going to read that resolution into the record. Our Emergency Management Coordinator, David McCurdy, and our Assistant Manager, William Wessel, are here to accept that. Why don't y'all come on down, and I'll read this into the record. Whereas National Preparedness Month, an event founded after the tragedy of 9/11 to increase preparedness in the U.S., creates an important opportunity for every resident of Tarrant County to prepare their homes, businesses, and communities for any type of emergency, including national disasters and potential terrorist attacks. And whereas investing in the preparedness of ourselves, our families, businesses, and communities can reduce fatalities and economic devastation in our communities and our nation. And whereas Tarrant County is working closely with its planning and response partners, including municipalities, private organizations, volunteer agencies, community group, and education providers, to increase public activities in preparing for emergencies and to educate individuals on how to take action. And whereas emergency preparedness is the responsibility of every citizen of Tarrant County, and all citizens are urged to make preparedness a priority and work together as a team to ensure that individuals, families, and communities are prepared for disasters and emergencies of any type. And whereas all citizens of Tarrant County are encouraged to participate in citizen preparedness activities to become more prepared by taking three simple steps: get an emergency supply kit, make a plan for what to do in an emergency, and be informed by identifying sources of information in your community that will be helpful before, during, and after an emergency. Now therefore be it resolved that we, the Commissioners Court of Tarrant County, hereby proclaim September 2019 as National Preparedness Month and encourage all citizens and businesses to develop their own emergency preparedness plans and work together toward creating a more prepared society. In witness whereof we have hereunder set our hands and caused the seal of Tarrant County to be affixed this third day of September 2019, and I will move its approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. You guys cleaned up pretty good. Y'all come on around here and we get 3 flashes.
Thank you, Your Honor and Commissioners. We have a couple of other folks up here, a couple of interns from the University of North Texas Emergency Management Program, Lauren Harris and Aaron Del Rio. They're hanging out with us for a while, going through all the fun stuff we get to do. This year's theme for National Preparedness Month is being prepared, not scared. With all the things going on in the world right now, it seems pretty good advice. It was 2 years ago I was up here visiting with you all about all of our activities dealing with Hurricane Harvey. And all of our friends and neighbors down in Florida are bracing for another impact. So being prepared is very important. It's not just an individual idea. You got to get your families involved and your communities involved. So please help us spread the word, and hopefully we can lessen the impacts of things that might come towards us. Thank you again.
Thank you. And David, I've been recently hearing your commercials on Pandora for enlisting the citizens. I guess for is it the CERT teams or
the citizen emergency response teams around the county? I know several of our communities have them. I think Euless and Haltom City, North Richland Hills, quite a few of the communities have them. And it's an opportunity for citizens to get involved, to go through some training, and then be prepared to help out in the event of a large-scale emergency in their communities. So if your community has one, please look into joining it. It's a lot of fun. They get together on a regular basis and get out and get to do stuff. So.
Well, I've been impressed that we've been hearing them, and the more we can do to recruit those folks, the more we need to do that. And so, whatever we might do to, maybe do a little YouTube or something like that to really get out there, and Bill can help us do that.
Yeah, we're going to wear him out this month. I tell you, we got plans.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much.
All right. And now comes, again, one of my favorite, I say this every month, but it is one of my favorite times of the month, and it's when we have an opportunity to recognize our employees who are celebrating 5 years, 10 years, and this time all the way up to 35 years with the county. For those that are 25 and above, I call them, and we have a little conversation, usually on the weekend before. I talked with a few of them yesterday, in fact. And again, it's an opportunity just to kind of reminisce and think back over the years that they've spent with the county, and they have some pretty interesting stories, I will say. Again, for the 5-year folks, just you may have sat here and you may have heard it before, but I'm going to tell you that I'll call your name, or what sounds like your name, or alphabetically where your name should be called in the lineup. And if it's in any one of those three things, you need to stand up. I apologize from the beginning. My pronunciations can sometimes be far away from the actual pronunciation. And these folks up here will be glad to laugh with you at me, not at you. So please stand up when I call your name. Remain standing until the entire group has been highlighted, and at that point in time, then we'll thank you again. So we're going to again start off with our 5-year. The first is Bianca Aguiar, Constable Precinct 1. Adriana Aguiar, County Clerk's Office. Are y'all sisters? No. Well, there's a lot of folks that have relatives that work in the county, so I always want to check. Mark De La Garza, Sheriff's Office. Matthew Donovan, Sheriff's Office. Tiffany Green, Public Health. I see there was an easy name. I got Tiffany and Green, and she didn't even show up. Gabriela Hernandez Molina, Tax Office. Very good. Jason Kidd, sometimes I overthink them. With Information Technology. Darian Kirk, Sheriff's Office. Darian, thank you. Sade Malone, District Clerk. Cassandra Maddox, Sheriff's Office. Darren May, Information Technology. Jessica Montoya, Tax Office. Sergio Munoz, County Clerk. Michael Ray, Sheriff's Office. Dale Richards, District Clerk. Dale. Elijah Silas, Sheriff's Office. Verinda Tanaj.
Vinny.
Vinny. When I saw the Tanaja, I knew that it was Vinny, but boy, I sure missed it. Okay, go ahead and pronounce. I'm gonna always call you Vinny, but Vinny, we appreciate you being here. Deidre White, Sheriff's Office. Rusty Wingate, Sheriff's Office. These are our 5-year employees.
It seems like Vinny just got here.
Well, I was just going to
already 5 years.
Seated. It's amazing because it does just seem like yesterday that Vinny was here. You came right in either the beginning or right after. You came right before the Ebola situation started.
A few days before.
Few days, yeah. We always have a tendency to bring in new public health people and then an emergency occurs, which is better than bringing them in right after, I guess. Now for our 10-year employees. Alois Amajor, Sheriff's Office. Okay, now, go ahead. Pronounce it.
Aloysius.
Yeah. Thank you for pronouncing that. And he's with the Sheriff's Office. Star Anderson with the Sheriff's Office. Thank your mother, Star. I really appreciate this. Mayra Caldera, Constable Precinct 5. Yeah, I missed that one too. Timothy Hudenpile, Sheriff's Office. Amanda McNutt, Domestic Relations Office. Josephina Marino, Sheriff's Office. She just stood up because she knew she was in that vicinity. Kirk Moss, the 325th District Court. Charles Reynolds, Criminal Court. Zevon Stubbs, the Sheriff's Office. These are our 10-year employees. Let's get going. Now for our 15-year employees, Ron Alston, County Clerk. Steve Cheney, Cooperative Extension. Janice Davis, Tax Office. Debbie Mahan, District Clerk. Dan Nichols, Tax Office. John Stubblefield, Precinct 3. There you go. Daniel Taylor, Tax Office. Kim Wheeler Mendoza, District Clerk's Office. These are our 15-year employees. Now for our 20-year employees, Roger Hogle, Sheriff's Office. Carrie Maldonado, Domestic Relations Office. Felicia Maxwell, Juvenile Services. Lisa Navarez, Justice of the Peace, Precinct 5. Angelica Sandoval, Public Health. And Sarah Smith, Constable, Precinct 8. Let's give these 20-year employees. Now for our 25-year employees. First is Arnita Bell. Started off in the Sheriff's Office. She's been here 25 years. Started off in the Sheriff's Office as a clerk. Worked on the floors at Belknap. Worked in the housing for a while. Now is working in the property room at the Correction Center for about the last 15 years, I think you said. Memorable moments, she said, I met and married my husband at the county, and we've been married now for over 19 years. She said, come on, stand back up for a second. Don't get carried away with this sitting down. She said, I love working with a lot of different people, and she said, we have fun. She said, it's very close And, you know, we, in addition to just working real hard and working very closely with one another, we have fun. And she says, I'm beginning to think about retirement, but I'm not quite there yet. Arnetta, we thank you very, very much for your 25 years of service. Next is Marie Gibson. She is with the County Auditor's Office, has been there for 25 years, started in the Auditor's Office in finance. She actually moved down here from Kansas. Her and her husband moved down here from Kansas. She moved over to accounts payable and has been there for about 20 years, and she's now the manager of accounts payable. Memorable moments. She said, you know, I think like so many folks, and I'll include myself, when we moved from the private sector to the government sector, we heard about this stigma attached to government folks, and it's just not true. And very quickly, very, very quickly, we realized that because we see the passion for public service in just about everybody that we came to deal with. She said it has been absolutely a great experience working with the folks at the county. She said she was a part of the SAP conversion and said that that the team worked very, very closely together, and they were bound and determined that this was going to succeed, and it has, and it's been something that's helped our county quite a bit. She said what I like most is the family, and it's an atmosphere of celebrating and on occasions mourning. She said everybody supports one another in doing their job. Marie, we thank you very, very much for 25 years of service. Next is Esther Goodwin with the District Attorney's Office, 25 years. Started out in the Sheriff's Office, spent 8 years there, and then came over to the DA's office as a criminal investigator. Now is at Juvenile, still criminal investigator, helping the prosecutors. Memorable moments, she said, it was just the opportunity to serve the citizens of Tarrant County. She said, what I like most is that family feeling. It just makes such a big difference. She says, I really enjoy the people I've had a chance to work with. She says, I also enjoy having a chance to assist victims in getting through whatever bad event that they have, that they've experienced. She said, time has really flown by. She said, people stay here because people care so much for each other. And I think that's so true, Esther, and it's something that we see over and over again and that I hear over and over again. So thank you very, very much for your 25 years of service. Now next is Mike Hammons. Mike is with CSCD, and he works in Judge Cummings' court, and he wasn't able to make it today. But when you see Mike, thank him for his 25 years of service. Next is Leslie Solzener. We worked on that last night. She was about to tell me what I did when she was here before, when I last did, and I said, no, don't do that because it'll lock in that brain and I'll never get past it. She started out in DRO and Family Court Services as a receptionist. She's now Christie's executive secretary, assistant. She makes sure the department runs over. That's what it really comes down to. She said memorable moment was when Christie started as the director in 1999, they didn't have internet. And so, Christie's one of these youngsters that decided, she uses that internet to email and do all that kind of stuff. Well, I think the staff wasn't quite sure what they were supposed to use the internet for when they first got it. But, she's kind of drug them kicking and screaming, like most of us have done, into the computer age. But not everybody. We still have some holdouts. What she loves is, she said, I love what I'm doing. She said mostly it's a bunch of HR stuff, but she said, I really enjoy that. She's made many great friends. She said the department is just ever changing. Retirements, new people coming in. So it's just, it's really been amazing, I'm sure, over the last 25 years to watch the department as it has changed. She's actually going to retire next June. I hope everybody knew that. She's still awake over here, so I mean she didn't pass out when I said that. I think you have a few people here with you today.
Yeah.
I believe you have your daughter.
I have a daughter.
And who else? Just go ahead and y'all stand up as she introduces you.
This is my daughter Kelly.
Okay.
And my sister Dawn. And she faked an earache today so she could be here.
We won't tell.
My daughter Carmen.
Now you have a brother too, don't you? That's what I thought. The brother went on to school.
Actually, he's home not feeling well either.
Oh well, if one's going to be off, the other one needs to be off too. And then you have a son who wasn't able to make it out here today.
Yeah. And my daughter-in-law couldn't make it.
Yeah, that's good. Leslie, we thank you very much for your 25 years of service. Now, next is Brad Carpenter, also in domestic relations. 30 years in domestic relations. Started out there, has been in family court services, did custody in the beginning, is now in the contested child custody area. Memorable moment was the new family law building. Also, the movement of the family law from litigation to collaboration. He said what I like most is the people he had a chance to work with, a bunch of very, very close friends. He worked for CPS before, and he loves the county, the benefits, and the people he's had a chance to work with. 5 years ago, when we talked, he had a daughter that was just beginning Baylor. He was playing, and he said at that point in time, and as any parent who's dropped their child off at college knows, there's an adjustment period for both of you. He was playing softball, and when I talked with him this week, he's looking to retire next October. He said Christy is one of the best people that he's ever worked for in his time with the county. His daughter has now graduated from Baylor. And that's the other thing, as a parent who has a child that has gone to college, we can all understand. And she is working in Austin. He said, I've been doing a lot of mediation, but I'm not doing that anymore. He gave up softball, but he picked up bowling, and I guess the county, there's actually a county team, really? And they bowl, and it's just, it's not one of these competitive type things. They just get together. Now, some are laughing, so I'm wondering if there's one of the other ones that he pointed you out, so you must be on the team too. And he said, we just have a good time. And we're not out there to try to win anything. We're just out there to have a good time, and it sounds like you do. Brad, thank you very much for your 30 years of service to Tarrant County. Jennifer, thank you, Jennifer, for being here. We appreciate you very much. We appreciate you. I guess we appreciate you letting him work. Now, it may be that when he retires, you send him back. Next is Nancy Mcgovern, 35 years juvenile services. She started out in juvenile services in the secretarial pool. She got her degree, worked as an assistant in the probation officer, got her degree, and has been a probationer officer ever since. I believe you are working now with the mentally ill offenders. She said that some of the memorable moments were some of the practical jokes that the officers had played, setting alarms, doing different things along that type lines. She said, what I like most is the kids that she's had a chance to work with. She said everybody that works in the juvenile area has the kids' best interest at heart. She said it's really a family atmosphere. She said the judges really care about the kids. When we talked 5 years ago, she had a 5-year-old grandson, and I believe a 4-year-old granddaughter. She never thought that she was going to be around here for 35 years. And I think as she works with the folks that are just coming in, she says to them, "This is a great place to work." All of them say, "Yeah, well, I'm only going to be here for 4 or 5 years, and then I'm going to move on." I've always told her, and we talked about this yesterday, I said, sit her down in front of the TCDRS screen and get that benefits calculator and let them see what a difference it'll make if they'll just stick it out and work. And before they know it, they're going to fall in love with the place like everybody else does. She said she's had a chance to work with some great people at the county. She said everyone in the unit cares and supports one another in good times, but sometimes even more so in hard times. Yeah. And I think that speaks volumes to many people in the room. And I think that's just something that you learn as you spend those years with the county. She's actually retiring at the end of this year. And so Nancy, we really want to thank you for the 35 years that you've given it to us. 615 years, there's a lot of things, there's a lot of stories in those 615 years. There's a lot of good stories, there's a lot of sad stories, there's just a lot of fun, there's a lot of family. And all of that is interwoven with public service and with the passion to do whatever you can do to help whoever's in front of you to make their life a little bit easier when you do it and when you see them in front of you that day. It's priceless. And, we cannot begin to tell you how much we appreciate everything that you do and the way you act. Sometimes when people are screaming at you, we still appreciate, and you show that professionalism, and we very much appreciate that. We have pictures and cookies back in 504c3.
Be Wilder back there.
No, it's 504c. That 504c3 is a tax code that I just that's the bean counter. Every once in a while I get on that roll and those other letters just come out. 504c, they have cookies back there for you. Thank you again very much.
It is hysterical.
It is.
Okay.
I'm going to move that we receive and file employee recognition.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Court members, you have before you the consent agenda.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Manius?
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the Court, before we go into the regular agenda, I'd like to introduce someone to the court this morning. I'd like to introduce Cara Sitton.
Hi.
Cara is our new director of the Law Library, and she comes to us. She's actually an employee of the Law Library. Has been there since about January, but she's a graduate of Texas A&M Law School, has a master's in library science. We had an interview panel which included David Evans and people from HR and some people from our staff, and Cara was the unanimous choice. I think she's going to be a really good addition as director of the Law Library. So we just wanted to introduce her to you this morning.
Congratulations.
Welcome aboard. Coming to a great organization. Of course, she already knows that.
What's that?
Of course, she already knows that.
Yes, she does. By the way, she's already done a lot of things over there. That law library is the cleanest I've seen it in 5 years, so very good. We've also asked her to make sure that she works very closely with the auditor's office and also the budget office as it relates to the finances, and that are associated with the law library. Remember, the court, if you would, we can go to public hearings now. Just a reminder, Your Honor, we do have some audience participation in both of those. So we can go to item A. This is the second of two public hearings for the Tarrant County government's tax rate for tax year 2019. It's requested that the Commissioners Court do the following. First of all, conduct this public hearing regarding tax year 2019 tax rate for the county government, and announce the date, time, and place of the vote of the tax rate, which is as follows. That vote will occur next Tuesday, September 10th, 2019 at 10 a.m. in the morning. It will be in the Tarrant County Administration Building, which is located at 100 East Weatherford Street in Fort Worth, Texas. The benchmark tax rates that concern this public hearing is that the effective tax rate is .218852 per $100 valuation. The rollback is .234620 per $100 valuation. The current tax rate is .234, and the proposed tax rate is .234.
I will open the public hearing at this time and ask if there's anyone here wishing to speak to this matter. And I believe I have some audience participation, so I will call them. Crystal Main, North Richland Hills. If you wouldn't mind, please give your name, repeat your name, address. 3 minutes is what you have for time to speak. So.
Okay. My name is Crystal Main, 9216 Winslow Court, North Richland Hills, and I am speaking against the proposed tax rate. I'm currently staying with my mom to help her, and she owns 3 rental properties that I manage. One of them all 3 of them have almost doubled. One of them is more than doubled. I have one where the taxes are estimated to go from $1,700 to $4,400. That's over a $200 a month increase that I can either pass on to my tenants who already can barely afford their rent, or I can sell and they will no longer have my place to rent. I actually don't have that property tax rate sheet with me, or the value sheet, but I do have two others. One of them went from $57,000 to $100,000 in value. Since 2014, an 815% increase in value. So you're keeping the tax rate the same is significantly increasing the taxes on these properties. These are properties which are in very low-income areas, and the people I rent to can barely afford the rent as it is for me to be able to keep the property up. And now you're raising the taxes on them. Now, okay, so forget that I'm a landlord. What about the people who live next door to my tenants who own their property and their values have gone up that much and they're paying that much more for their escrow, for their taxes? Do you think that they expected their values to go up that much in 5 years? So what happens when they can't afford it because they didn't get that much of a pay raise over these past few years? They bought a house that they qualified for, and a lot of times get the maximum that they can afford to buy. A lot of times it's the lowest price that they can find to get an acceptable property. And yet you're going to raise the taxes every single year on them. How are they supposed to afford that? How are my tenants supposed to afford this tax increase? Or I just sell the property and now they're out on the street unless they can find someone else to rent to them for a price that they can afford. So anyway, I strongly suggest that you lower the tax rate to account for the increase in values. So these are low-income areas. My mom lives in a nicer area. Hers has gone up 45% in the past 5 years. So she can afford it. Of course, she's got a cap on hers, being a senior. What about the neighbors who don't have that cap, who have families that they're trying to raise, and you're increasing their taxes by that much? That's not good fiscal responsibility for y'all. You're not looking out for the taxpayers. Thank you.
Next is Fran Rhodes.
Good morning. My name is Fran Rhodes. I live at 10613 Elmhurst Lane in Fort Worth in Precinct 3. Judge Whitley and County Commissioners, I rise today to speak to you in protest of your proposed 2020 budget and tax rates. Tarrant County taxpayers are already at the limit of what they can afford, and some are choosing or being forced to sell their homes and relocate or rent because of the continuously rising property taxes. Every year the tax bill goes up and up and up. And it's not just the county tax. Citizens are being hit with higher taxes from their cities. The hospital district taxes above the effective rate. School districts are either proposing increases to their M&O, or they're proposing rates above the effective rate, or many are proposing bonds in addition to that. We're just being hit everywhere we turn with property taxes. I could not find the information on the Tarrant County College District, and I tried, but I'm sure they're doing something similar. And the Tarrant Regional Water District seems to think that tax revenue is like water, and all they have to do is turn on the taxpayer tap. The county's proposed rate of $2.34 is the same as last year, but it is still nearly 2 cents above the effective rate, 6.9% above the effective rate, and only 0.26% below the rollback rate, which is the highest rate you can go before citizens can demand a vote on it this year. This results in the county collecting $43,518,914 more in property tax revenue than you did last year. for an average priced home that is a 9% increase over last year and a 42% increase since 2013. I'm not sure where all of this money is going. We've met some really fantastic employees today of the county, and we appreciate their dedication and their service. And I understand that they have to be paid and they expect raises and benefits. But I do know where the money is coming from. It's coming from the personal checking accounts of people like me. And it just has to stop, or at least slow down. I understand that running a county the size of Tarrant County is challenging and difficult, but we have to find ways to control spending, cut waste and abuse, eliminate unnecessary expenditures. Other counties are doing it. I believe Collin County has adopted the effective rate for several years in a row, and they're a similar size, and I'm sure they face similar challenges to Tarrant. Several cities in the area have also adopted the effective rate, and they are functioning quite well, so that we know that it can be done. So today I challenge each of you to respect the taxpayers of Tarrant County, reject the proposed rate of 234, adopt the effective rate of 218852, and find ways to live within your means the way that citizens and families are required to do. No one gives us an automatic raise every year, but that's what you as county commissioners are doing. You're giving the county budget a raise every year that you do not adopt the effective rate. And every year that you don't do that, the effective rate the next time brings the total higher and higher, and the tax bills go up. So I urge you, please stop the madness, find ways to be responsible stewards of our money. Thank you.
Thank you. Al Zito? Zito?
Thank you, Commissioner. Hey, my name gets mispronounced so many times, as you probably know.
I got it right.
Well, I know.
Good morning, everyone, and
Morning.
thank you very much for all of your service and dedication to the county. You all do a wonderful job with all the services and everything that you do, and going through your budget and being familiar with what the county's done. I'm impressed. My name is Al Zito. I'm from 501 Potomac Place, South Lake, Texas, Precinct 3 with Commissioner Fickus. Moving right on to it, taxes, and specifically property taxes. Basically, I'm testifying against any increase over the effective rate, and in fact requesting a close look at the budget to do all possible to present a rate that is actually less than the effective, specifically like what the city of South Lake has done this year for 2019 and 2020. Texas has risen to the accolades of being number one, number two in a lot of things in the United States. One of the things that has happened over the last 5 and 10 years is Texas has also risen to be within the top 5 property tax collectors in the United States. Some may say, oh, well, those states have property taxes. Well, there's every state that doesn't have an income tax has got a lower property tax burden on its citizens than the state of Texas. This is not an area where we want to be number one. Reviewing your budget, I can clearly see how much responsibility the county has and what the related costs are to provide all the county services. Benefits are going up. There's no question that costs aren't going down in any area. However, there's almost a $10 million increase attributable to growth that's not difficult to, that shouldn't be difficult to settle in on a budget that does not increase taxes over the Tarrant County legacy property tax owners. There's $10 million of growth that's coming into the coffers. That's fantastic. The county's continuing to grow. We welcome those businesses and those residents into the county, and look forward to that increase of revenue. However, to see a $24 million increase in budget less the capital side, it's a little bit alarming. Also, just as an aside, a $5 million contingent revenue fund, that seems to be a little funny. It started last year 1.8 or 1.9 million, and now we have a $5 million piece of revenue that's coming in from somewhere, which is nice, but it would be nice to know more specifically what that is. Further, and this may touch on the hospital side, but I recall the sales and marketing campaign for the hospital bond. Thank you, sir. No new taxes, no tax increase. I ask you to live up to your word. I ask you to do what you can to at least adopt the effective rate and not increase property taxes on the property owners here in the county of Tarrant. I'm available to any one of you on my time, on my dime, to assist, to help, to lend a hand, and wish you all well and thank you for your service.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Al.
Thank you.
Vera Sweet Keller.
Good morning. My name is Vera Sweet. I reside at 328 Park North Lane in Keller, Texas. And I am learning what it means to be a citizen. And you invited me and give me the opportunity to speak to you. So thank you. I feel a little embarrassed because everyone has said everything that I was going to say. And so, well, I just thank you for citizen participation. And I want you to know that Tarrant County is such a rich place that a lot of people who moved here, they don't know that the property value will result in so many payments every month because of the taxes that they pay. If they're good citizens, they pay their tax. And so it's just so new to them that prices can go up so quickly. And listening to how caring you are to your employees and to the community, I'm sure you were very serious in making these plans. But, you know, some people will have to move, and they have to leave Tarrant County, and that also will cost more money. So I'm asking you to please consider what else you can do, because you're very caring. And if you cannot do it this time, but perhaps you can find out why people actually leave and see what displaces them, because that is a very serious thing. They come here to find a good community and then they have to leave again. I apologize. This is a very...
Thank you very much for being here and being a part.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Peggy Wolshardt. Good morning.
Morning.
I'm Peggy from 7129 Norma Street, and I'm in District Precinct 1. I don't know all that these people know. I'm not a tax person, but I am a property owner, and I do have 3 rent homes. And our taxes went sky high from last year. So I'm just going to say what I say, just from my heart. I don't want you to increase the taxes. I'm here to protest increased unfair taxation. I came to remind you that you are to be making laws that benefit the citizens of Tarrant County, who are property owners. Overtaxing our properties does not benefit the citizens of Tarrant County. It is actually stealing from us. The people are the beneficiaries. We make the decisions. You are confiscating our properties and destroying our liberties, which is not the purpose of our government. You are not following the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. We want the freedom to make our own decisions. We don't want you to make them for us. We want lower taxes. We don't want higher values so that you can tax us to fund things we don't agree with. We are the sovereigns. The rate has been set by the legislature. We don't want the values raised so you can arbitrarily tax us more for things we don't agree to. This is evil, and it is not the administration of justice. You need to set a cap on agencies that are running wild. You are to be for all the citizens. We elected you for this purpose. We want lower taxes. Remember who you are serving, we the citizens. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, the last participation form that I have is from Brian Campbell, that he did not wish to speak. He says, I wish to protest the proposed tax rate. Residents, including myself, are being taxed out of our homes. More conservative spend need to be implemented, and scrutiny on property tax assessments should be investigated. Yes, sir.
Brian Campbell, can I change my...
You sure can. Just come right on down.
How about the speaker?
Morning.
Hello. My name is Brian Campbell. I live at 1201 Johnson Road in Keller. I'm a builder. I'm self-employed. I designed and built my house in 2010, and it was to be my retirement home, everlasting, did a quality build. Every year since then, my property taxes have gone up 10% because I'm not yet at the market value. I'm not yet 65, so my taxes are not frozen. However, I've already been priced out of my home because of property taxes. I already spend, $15,000 a year collectively on property taxes as of this year. I have my house up for sale to move, looking at another county, because it is just getting difficult for people who are looking at retiring, being on a fixed income, and having homes that keep getting taxed higher and higher and higher. Even though that there is some cap for 65, it doesn't stop the exponential increase in property taxes overall. So I ask that you do examine what you are looking at as far as a tax rate and try and control costs, because it is very harmful to people in my age group. And it is also difficult for people that are coming to buy homes, because, as was previously mentioned, people don't have an understanding of property taxes, especially when they're coming from a state like California, a low property tax, but they have high assessments. And I saw in California where the property taxes were lowered, but then all of a sudden property values skyrocketed. And I'm seeing that trend here in Texas. And I hope that people will take note, and I hope that we can control that ascent in the tax base. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else? Okay, I'll come on down, but I need you to fill out a form. Do you have a form filled out already?
No, sir. Your Honor, thank you for recognizing me. This is my first attempt to be before the tax.
Okay, let me get you a form, because I need you to fill out a form, and then we'll be more than glad to. I tell you what, go ahead and make a comment. Again, you have 3 minutes. We'll get a form filled out for you.
All right.
Go ahead and start.
Thank you, Your Honor. It's a pleasure to be before the Commissioner's Court, and I've only seen you by pictures and never met you by person, and I thank you for this opportunity to voice my my disposition about the tax rate increase. And my name is Kim Fithian. Thank you. Coach me, please.
And your address.
And my address is 909 McCurry Avenue, Bedford, Texas.
Thank you.
So my reason for being here today is I'm now retired. I've spent 37 years, in Tarrant County as a homeowner. And anyway, on behalf of the people who are retired that are on fixed incomes like myself now, the property tax rate increase, not the rate itself, but the property values, are really creating a burden on us. And I think that one of the things that I am beginning to study a little bit, since I'm not familiar with local government, being the first time here, I did review a little bit about the 2019 property proposed tax fund. And one of the things that just stood out among all of the others was that the non-departmental fund has increased over the last 5 years by double. That's concerning. Now, I'm not sure what's included in that entire non-departmental fund, but doubling that revenue base seems to be a bit, over 5 years, seems to be a bit concerning, to me and others. I have understood that it's may consist of largely road and bridge fund, but I'm not sure what else is in there. So anyway, if you could please help us to reduce the costs in some of these funds that are just really overburdensome, it would be great. That, and the other thing I saw was the debt service. Okay, the debt service fund is growing, and that presumes interest on the bond issues and everything. So hopefully we can find a way to reduce that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And if you would, gentleman brought back there is going to give you a form.
Okay. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Now, is there anyone else wishing to speak at this point in time? Then I will close the public hearing. Mr. Mays.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the court, on item B, this also is a public hearing, but it concerns the Tarrant County Hospital District's tax rate for tax year 2019.
Let me stop you for just 1 second. From our standpoint, if we choose to respond to any of the comments, is now the time to do that as far as this first public hearing went?
Yes, you can, because it's on the agenda and it's something that you can discuss.
Okay, does anyone have does anyone up here wish to make any?
Yeah, I'm not happy with the budget, and I think Mr. Maney knows that. But the thing that, I guess the most shocking thing to me is that the vast majority of the spending, additional spending, is centered around criminal justice. When your sheriff comes in and tells you that his people that work in the jail are being attacked by inmates, and he needs more men, we usually try to get him a few more men. When he says, I don't have enough bailiffs to have a bailiff in the courts, then we have to bring in more bailiffs. When the district attorney, criminal district attorney, has a unit that deals with domestic violence where people are being beat up, abused, and killed. And she needs prosecutors that know how to prosecute those types of cases. We have to pay attention to what some of those needs are. When the state of Texas leaves over 500 prisoners, 500 in our jails every night, 365 days a year, that's what the average is, $75 a day, that's $15 million. When we provide an attorney to defend an indigent person who's convicted of a crime, in Tarrant County, that runs around $15 to $17 million a year. That's your money. That's your money right there that the state of Texas should take those obligations and pay for them, and they don't do it. And I've talked to my legislator, or the legislators in my precinct, which I have 3 or 4, depends on, and it's like they're not listening. We're talking real money. So it's very disturbing.
And I guess what I want to add to that, I hope that all of y'all who spoke go back and watch the budget hearings from August the 5th, August the 20th, and August the 27th to hear as we listen to the requests from the various elected officials. As Commissioner Fickus just mentioned, with just 2 items, with indigent defense and with the prisoners that we are holding in our jail that the state does not pay us a nickel on. That in and of itself is about $0.015 or about $30 million of those taxes. And were they paying for that and we didn't have to charge you for that, we could be reducing the tax rate by at least $0.015. At least $0.015. $30 million. Our employees, we gave, for the most part, 3% raises. Elected officials, for the most part, 3% or less. JPS, when we did the bond issue, we said we would not increase the tax rate. Not that we would not increase taxes. We were very clear about that. When it comes to, again, everybody, I know property taxes are tough. When you look at Texas overall, we're 37th when it comes to state and local taxes as a percentage of your personal income. Yes, much more of it is toward the property tax. I have suggested that the state look at that and potentially close some of the loopholes. Right now, we collect about $100 billion, in taxes, state and local, but we exclude about $60 billion. So I think that's something that that we could look at. The biggest item on that property tax bill you're looking at is the school. And what the state has done or has not done is to pay its fair share. It continues to pay less than 50%. And they are constitutionally charged with the responsibility of offering a public education. This year, instead of, they added a lot of money to public education, but they delayed the imposition of the caps on public schools for 2 years. And the reason for that is because within their very budget, which was an 11% increase, they had to count on, and in the document it says they're counting on your property taxes going up by almost 14% in order to reconcile their budget. So you certainly can come, and we understand your situation from a standpoint of property taxes. We really do. But when they pass unfunded mandates, when they leave prisoners in our jails and not pay us a single penny for those, when you have elected officials and department heads come and say they really need this, and then go back and look at the budget hearings. It's not just the 5 of us up here deciding, boom, we're going to throw extra dollars there. Go back and look at the budget hearings. And at least you can have a little bit of a flavor of what we have looked at and what we have tried to do over the last month as we have listened and tried to prepare our budget. But the main thing is talk to your legislators and tell them to quit mandating to us things that we have to do and then not paying for it. And have them pay for the prisoners that we are holding in our jail and not getting a dime of reimbursement for them. A lot of conversation a couple of months ago about the 287G. The federal government pays us. If we're holding a prisoner, they pay us. Our state doesn't. So, you know, I'm very sympathetic and want to do everything we can from the property tax issues, but a lot of times it's taken out of our hands.
Tarrant County also, the gentleman was talking about having to move out of Tarrant County, and I'm sorry. I truly, that's bad. We don't need that. But Tarrant County has the lowest tax rate of any large county in the state of Texas. And there's about 8 or 10 of them that are what we call large counties: Harris, Bear, Travis, Nueces, Dallas, El Paso. Our tax rate is substantially lower. The only one close to us is Dallas, which is a penny higher. So
we also have fewer employees by a long shot than those large urban counties. So we try desperately to hold the budget, but we do listen to our elected officials and to our department heads as they come in and say, this is where we have no choice, but we feel like we have to ask for this, and sometimes we pass them and sometimes we don't. Any other comments at this point in time? Mr. Manius, let's move to the next one.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the Court, a week ago to item B. This is a public hearing concerning the Tarrant County Hospital District's tax rate for tax year 2019. We're requesting the following actions from the Commissioners Court. Today, we ask that you hold a public hearing regarding tax year 2019 tax rate for the Tarrant County Hospital District. Announce the date, time, and place of the vote of the tax rate, which is as follows. That vote will occur next Tuesday, September 10th, 2019 at 10 a.m. in the morning. It will occur at the Tarrant County Administration Building, which is located at 100 East Rutherford Street in Fort Worth, Texas. The benchmark tax rates for tax year 2019 are as follows. The effective tax rate is 0.211266 per $100 valuation. The rollback rate is 0.228051 per $100 valuation. The current tax rate is 0.224429 per $100 valuation, and the proposed tax rate is 0.224429, the proposed tax rate. Your Honor, I just might note that on the speaker forms that many of the individuals that spoke today were addressing both items A and B.
I will open the public hearing at this time and ask if there's anyone wishing to speak to this matter. Those of y'all who spoke, I will give you an opportunity to speak again. I don't know if there's other folks who wish to, but we'll begin with Crystal Main. Okay. Next is Fran Rhodes.
I guess I would just like to reiterate everything I said before, but also add to that, respectfully, I know you guys do the best you can do, and you're all working hard to control these things. But I keep hearing everywhere I go, this government unit points the finger at that government unit, and that government unit points the finger at some other government unit. The truth is, it's all our tax money, whether it comes from the state or the county or the school or the city. It's all tax money. It's all coming from us. And I can appreciate that we we need more people in the Sheriff's Department. God bless them. They do a wonderful job in the DA's office. But surely there are places you guys can find to control spending and be more responsible with the money you have. Because your taxpayers are maxed out. Whether it's the county tax or the whatever other tax, we are maxed out. People are losing their homes. They are being forced out. And I don't know where they're going. I mean, I'm fortunate. I can afford to pay my taxes, and I pay them gladly. But for all of the other citizens in the state of Texas and across the nation who are faced with tough decisions, my heart aches for them. And I go to all these local government units. I'm going to the city of Fort Worth next Tuesday to say the same thing I'm saying to you. You guys have got to find ways to cut these budgets. Don't cut the Sheriff's Department. Everybody likes to throw police and sheriff and firefighters out there as, you know, that's going to have to suffer if we cut the budget. I'm sorry, I just don't believe that. There has to be ways in other departments, in administrative costs, in your own staffs. I don't know.
There are, okay? Sure, like IT, okay? Huge department.
Huge.
Well, what I cut for them, it's going to affect the DA. It's going to affect another part. It's a balancing act where you've really got to look at everything. And by the way, our IT department came in with a little bit lower budget than they had the year before.
Good for them.
And Fran, I hear what you're saying, but I mean, again, when we're paying $26 million because the state says we have to, the Sheriff's Department is about 45% of our budget.
Yep.
So that's that is a big part of the issue.
Would you like me to march citizens in here and have them spell out their budgets? And they don't get to just go someplace and say, give me, you know, a 3 or 4% pay raise this year. We're all facing the same problems, and we have no choice. If we don't pay our taxes to y'all, we lose our homes. So I guess I just want to urge you to do better.
We have no choice. When the state tells us to pay something, we pay it, and you have to pay that.
But that's your job,
well,
to figure these things out.
You're not talking to the state. You're talking to the county, which is probably one of the smallest items on that bill.
You're right.
Our tax.
Yes, it is.
The average.
It's about $500 on my tax bill.
The increase on the average home value this year is about $3.57 a month.
Okay. But my tax bill has gone up about $1,000 a year since I bought the home.
And most of that is school. And again, I'm going to talk to you about the state, because the state is not paying their share.
Well, I'm talking to the state, I'm talking to the county, I'm talking to the city, and I'm talking to schools.
Who have you talked with at the state so I can pile on?
Matt Krause, who's my state representative.
I'll be glad to talk with him also.
And I go to Austin. You probably saw me there testifying for SB 2 this last session.
Which again is
in both the Senate,
local government. It's not asking the state government to pay its fair share.
Yes, but big picture here, you are all out of control, all of you.
Well, we'll just choose to disagree.
That's fine. I thank you for your time.
I thank you for yours. Next is Al Zetto.
Zito.
You're going to get a little practice at this, aren't you?
Yeah, I am. I just continuously mess up names. That's my habit.
It's okay. I'm used to it. As long as they don't call me late to dinner, that's the most important thing. Again, Al Zito, 501 Potomac Place, South Lake, Texas. Not to reiterate too much further, and I empathize with the situation with what's going on with the state, and happy to assist and happy to continue pounding on those state representatives. I spent quite a bit of my time on my dime during session this year on a whole host of matters, some that never got across the finish line and some that did. And I'm very proud of the participation that I had in those things. There's always room. There's always room in a budget. We're talking a couple percent here. And I understand that there's minimal, that the county portion is minimal compared to the school. Get it, 100%. We now are seeing, because of HB3, the schools are rolling back just a little bit because they have to. But when we start looking at tax rate in Texas and tax rate in individual counties, it's the whole formula. As assessed values are going up, tax rate is supposed to come down. That's the way it's supposed to work. What's happened here in Texas since the onslaught of increased property values, assessed values, is we're all being taxed out of our homes. And this is what the problem is. When we go and see our taxes rising over 10 years, 60, 70%, something's wrong. Something is broken with the system. And as we go and look at other things in the budget, and as you said, IT, big piece of your budget, you also have quite a few other things which are just really just strange. $15 million increase in non-departmental. You've got
that increase in non-departmental. I'm going to help understand.
Sure, go ahead. I love it. Thank you.
That is increasing the reserves of the county. We're GFOA, which is your government, suggests that you have around a 15% reserve for fund balance in order to be financially conservative with, again, with your entity. Mm-hmm. So that increase is brought about primarily because of the future of the 3.5% cap that the legislature is placing on us next year, and yet at the same time not placing any cap on the unfunded mandates they give us. And so the decision of the court was to move that up from what had been about a 10% to a 15% to comply with, or not to comply with, but to come closer to what has been recommended by governmental accounting organizations, national organizations, as well as our bonds and bond rating companies in order to maintain our AAA rating.
Well, and we need to be fiscally responsible with those funds, and of course maintaining those bond ratings are important and help on the side of the debt service. But keep on going through the budget, and here's a compensation allocation, 512052. All of a sudden, there's $10 million coming in from left field that's never been before.
That is there. Excuse me one second. We're going to talk about this as we go along.
Sure.
That what we basically do is we say to the county, we're going to, as a court, we said we were going to give a 3% merit, not cost of living. You know, it's not just because you're breathing, but that $9 million represents the 3% all across the county. And we put it in non-departmental until after we pass the budget, and then that 9 or 10 million is then spread out among all of the departments within the county. So that number didn't all of a sudden just appear. It appears there every year, but at the end of the budget cycle, it's allocated out to every department based upon the current salaries within that department.
I guess I'm just not used to the budget process of not seeing anything in 2018 actuals, and all of a sudden seeing.
Did you hear what I just said?
Yes, I did, sir. And
so as soon as this is over with, that number will become zero, and if you come in here next year, the actual number for 2019 or for 2020 will be zero on that particular budget because it will have been allocated out to all of the other departments.
Okay, I think I understand. So that's a backup.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We need to find a way. We need to find a way. I understand the challenges that you have with the state. We all do. We all do. We have our challenges at the state level, we have our challenges at the county level, and we have our challenges at the local level. We need to wake up to what our constituents are telling us and what the demands and needs are of the residents of Tarrant County and our individual cities, etc. I understand budgeting. I understand living within our means. I understand additional revenues coming in because of additional properties, so on and so forth. I understand the demand and need for new services in regards to helping Sheriff Wayborn and so on and so forth to meet his minimum requirements and keeping his sheriffs and so on and so forth safe in regards to how they do their duties. Get it 100%. There's got to be a way. There's got to be a way for us to live within our means and to stop taking advantage of increased property assessed values as a way to bring more money in the coffers, bring more money into the revenue stream. I had the opportunity for a short time to live in the state of Florida, no income state, and my property doubled within 4 years. My property taxes in those 4 years went up $300. $300 on a from $4,000 bill to $4,300 bill. How did that happen? All of the taxing entities sat there and they looked at it and they saw the property values going up and they toned the rate down. And it kept things flat in regards to what individual taxpayers had to pay. We can do it. We can do it. And again, I'm offering my time, my effort, at no charge.
Mr. Zito, I have 2 questions for you. Thank
My
you
pleasure.
for being here today. What county was that in Florida?
Palm Beach.
And then in your initial remarks with the first public hearing, you had cited South Lake as an example, I guess, in what they did in their budget.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you elaborate on that?
Yes, I was on the city council in South Lake from 2010 to 2013. And during that time, I saw that from a budget standpoint, we were on a ever-increasing path, mostly because of debt service. And at that time, our debt was approximately $120 million. I met with staff and also other council members, and we decided to change the debt service ratio at that point and say, that's going too high. As soon as we did that and changed the debt service ratio formula, we obtained our second AAA bond rating. We've also now reduced, the city, because I stepped out of office in 2013, the city has reduced their total debt down to, it's in the $30 million range now. They also adopted back at that time a homestead rate, which is at the state maximum of 20%. So this year, what they wound up doing is getting I don't know, me or someone else, is looking at the rate, keeping the 20% current rate, homestead rate. It is me. My parking meter is running out of time. Sorry. And lowering their tax rate below the effective rate. So the city of South Lake has done something that's pretty admirable. One is because they were able to afford to do it with increased property revenues from new revenues coming on the books, as well as looking at things and not just living within their means, but bringing the tax rate down. And this is still with an increase to their overall budget. Health insurance is going up. You can't have employees stay with you forever and not get a raise. Gasoline, whatever, everything goes up. We understand all that. Of course, South Lake is a microcosm of what the responsibilities are for the county, by all means. And looking at your budget, it's a pretty big budget. But I think that what the city of South Lake has done, and some other entities throughout the state, they're hearing their constituents, and that's what I'm here for. It's not just for me. I'm here on my own.
Just a quick question. Do you know the percentage property tax versus sales tax?
I do, but I don't have it offhand.
It's probably close to 50-50 now?
I don't think it's 50-50, but the sales tax has helped quite a bit in South Lake. Looking at their budget this year, the biggest increase that they wound up seeing was from new property from a revenue standpoint.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
And increased value, too.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. But as the increased value is there, and the rate comes down, now the net effect, my net effect on my home for the city of South Lake taxes is it's been flat since the implementation of the homestead exemption, and they've tuned up that homestead exemption each year, which of course is only appreciated by property owners that have homestead, and it's been tuned up each year up to the maximum of 20%. So I go and look at my tax bill from the city of South Lake, and it's flat since 2013. It's basically the same. Now, this year, it's actually going to go down a few, 200, 300, whatever, some odd dollars because of the tax rate decrease. At the same time, the schools and county, so on and so forth, my taxes have gone up about 65%. 65%. Wowza. It's a lot of money.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. And thanks for the questions.
Vera Sweet. Questions left. Peggy Boshart.
I debated whether I should say this or not. Peggy Borchert, 7129 Norman Street. I'm concerned about education. We're spending a lot on education, and we're not getting one. We're not getting it. My daughter's a teacher, and she's amazing. She's over in Farmers Branch. She works her little heart out. She actually teaches those students. We're not teaching our students. Why are we having all this trouble with violence? Because we don't have any discipline in the schools. How can we spend all this money on schools and get nothing for it? And so I'm just angry that our schools are like this. I'm for public school. I'm for private school. And I'm not for vouchers, as some of you know, because I don't want government in our private schools. So something has to be done. We have to get back to discipline in our schools, and I know this goes back to the state. That's their problem, and it's probably not the appropriate thing to be talking about this here, about this, but we're giving all this money for something that we're not getting our money for it. We're paying all this money, and kids are not being educated. That's all.
Thank you.
Brian Campbell. Anyone else wishing to speak regarding the hospital district's proposed tax rate? There being none, then I will close the public hearing. Mr. Manius?
There's no action at this time requested as a comment or there's the court communication, the action requested. This will be up for a vote next Tuesday, and it'll be here at 10 o'clock.
We had discussed dropping the tax rate.
Yes. We were going to talk about it in briefing today, but we can talk about it now if you want to, whatever you'd like to do.
We had discussed it, the half cent and the ramifications of what that entails, and a quarter of a cent. So, if you could briefly.
Sure. So, last week we presented you with 3 different scenarios. The first one, which we're all familiar with, is to maintain the current tax rate of 0.234. What this would do would create a reserve of 14.5%, just a little bit underneath what Judge Woodley was talking about. If we go with the quarter-cent reduction, this would result in a $4.5 million decrease in the reserves, and it would set the rate at 0.2315. Those reserves then would be at a percentage of 13.5%. And then if we went with a half-cent reduction, that would decrease the reserves by $8.9 million. That would lower the reserve percentage to 12.6%. And it would also mean a tax rate of 0.229. And I know this was not mentioned, but just for general information, Tarrant County has the lowest tax rate of any of the major urban counties in Texas. And over the last 3 years, we have decreased the tax rate by over 12%. So today, sometime today during this court session, we're going to ask you all to make a determination on what you want the tax rate to be set at, simply because we are going to be bringing a budget to you, and it has to be a balanced budget, and we need to know that number today so that we can do the various calculations and have the documents printed for your consideration next week.
Well, I guess we'll mull over it until we get to the briefing item and have an opportunity to brief us once more.
Yes, sir.
We can mull if that's what you want to do. I had approached this budget with every intention of trying to lower the tax rate, either a half a penny or a quarter of a penny. But we are faced with so many demands that are not covered by the revenue that is being generated by even the current tax rate. We've had to cut services in many areas just to maintain the current tax rate. It's gotten to the point where if we cut further, we're not cutting fat. We're cutting muscle and bone. We're cutting to the point where it's not sustainable. So that, though I would dearly love to lower the tax rate, even by a symbolic amount, like a quarter of a penny, I just don't see how we can get there from here. My opinion.
Other comments at this time?
I would like to see us reduce the tax rate. And my preference would be a half cent.
I'd like to see us reduce it completely, do away with taxes. Can't do that. We've got obligations to meet. And it's a good political statement to say I want to lower taxes. I do want to lower taxes. We have lowered them for the last, how many years?
3.
But I've been through this budget process. I don't see it happening this year.
No, sir. There's an issue that's come up. You might recall that Mr. Phillips came forward talking about the juvenile facility and the fact that that even the amount of money that we sold in the bonds, that the cost of that facility is going to be about $8 million more. And that's something that we're going to have to do. We don't have a choice on that. So there's an expense that we're just trying to get our arms around.
There's only one place for that to come from, and that's reserves.
Yes, sir.
And we can do that over a couple of years, probably, but we've got to do it.
And again, my comment is if the state will start paying their share of our prisoners and start paying for indigent defense like they do in 35 or 36 other states, then we can lower the tax rate a whole lot more than a quarter of a penny or a half a penny. But they're not doing that. They're forcing us and then pointing the finger at us as being the bad guy in the deal.
And just to remind the court that the county does not have the ability to assess a sales tax. We have no ability to raise revenues from any other major source than the ad valorem tax.
And we can't set caps on the increases in property values. And that's, the 10% that was referred to earlier with regards to homestead is one thing. Everything else is subject to whatever increase the appraisal district places on that. And I know creates some very strong hardships among taxpayers at both commercial levels as well as residential levels. And I wish that the legislature would address those things, but they've chosen not to. They've chosen only to point the finger at us and continue to provide loopholes and unfunded mandates in that regard.
Have we, on this 8 million on juvenile.
Yes, sir.
Where are we at in this stage of?
That's after value engineering.
Well, that's where I'm headed. But.
Yeah.
David, you want to come up? I think this is something that Mr. Phillips brought to our attention a week ago, 2 weeks ago.
Good morning. We have received the first round of bids. The construction estimate was $35 million, came in about 43. However, we only received one electrical bid. It was, to give you the feel for how that works, electrical bids per square foot, we do cost per square foot for buildings. The electrical portion of that should be around $20, $25, $30 a foot of the overall cost. That one bid came in at $60 a foot. Double. Mechanical is the same way. We are not in a good environment to be buying things, electrical and mechanical systems. So what we're going to go back and do, we're doing today, we're going back and doing another round of cuts. I had asked the staff to put a large generator for the building, for the courts building, and for the new detention facility so it could run without interruption, because that's, of our 60 buildings, that is the campus we have the most problems with electrical service. Now I'm going back and asking them to not do that. We're just going to go at 50% or something lower, something we do at our sub-courthouses. So we're doing things like that. We'll be going with some less durable materials. We put terrazzo and floors in our courts buildings so they'll last a lifetime. We're going to go back and put some different materials down that won't last a lifetime, just to get us within our budget. So that's what we're doing now. We'll be rebidding some of those bid packages.
And I would just caution that, yeah, it's all right to have our sub-courthouses not there because we don't live there. I would be very hesitant about the fact that if that generator, if that building goes down with power, somebody's going to be out there, and there's going to be a lot of kids out there who are going to be living out there.
Yes, sir.
Let's not be too scrimpy in what we're doing with that.
Yes, sir.
But I think that points out as another thing, the problems that we're facing and the fact that next year it is going to be much tougher.
We'll see you in briefing.
Yes, you have nothing at this point in time, so the next is the auditor, Ms. Tidwell.
This morning we have one item that we're asking the court to approve in this case, and it's to approve the release and substitution of depository collateral in the $61,646,000 as outlined in your court communique.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Looks like Hyder must be next. He's coming forward.
Morning, Hyder.
Morning. How are you doing?
Price for it, though.
I come here today to ask that the court approve selling our old voting equipment that we're decommissioning to Hart InterCivic. To give you a little context, in their bid for the new equipment, they included an option to purchase back our old equipment for a total of $753,300. It is a belief from the district attorney's office that it's in our best interest to protect us from liability, to give that equipment back to them. It was sold to us by them because we have an obligation to protect intellectual property from that old equipment. So it's the safest bet to give it back to them.
We're not giving it back to them.
To sell it back to them.
Okay.
That's what I meant. I'm sorry. And I also believe, my personal opinion is that it's going to be hard to come up with an offer higher than this amount for that equipment.
So it's your recommendation
to sell it, to take the offer for them to buy.
Approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. My only question is, this was in no way considered when we made the consideration to go with Hart versus ES&S.
No, Your Honor. It was not factored in the bid.
Just wanted to be sure that was clear.
Certainly wasn't presented to us.
Well, that's right. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Ms. Glenn?
I move to receive and file the personnel agenda.
Second.
We have a motion second to receive and file the personnel agenda. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Good morning.
You didn't even start trying to get any steps in here today. Vinny.
5-year Vinny.
Yes, sir. Thank you all for having me here 5 years. I truly appreciate it. So this morning, Public Health has one item. We're requesting your approval for interim financing for fiscal year 2020. Texas Department of State Health Services has now received the National Syndromic Surveillance Program Grant Award for Public Health Department's Informatics Division, and we're waiting for that contract to arrive.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Mr. Beecham. Yeah. Uh-huh. You almost got beat.
Melissa.
Almost got beat.
There's no such thing as a bad win.
55-3 comes to mind. Go right ahead.
Okay. We have 4 items for your consideration this morning. The first item is an award recommendation for RFP number 2019-116, a new annual contract for policy management systems for public health, awarding to MCN Healthcare in the amount of $25,967. If approved, we're also requesting contract approval.
Move for approval.
Second. We have a motion second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
The second item is also an award recommendation for RFP number 2019-198, operation of the Reentry First Stop Center, awarding to Cornerstone Assistance Network in the amount of $101,250. If approved, we're also requesting contract approval.
Move approval.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
The third item is an award recommendation for RFQ 2019-214, coordinator for No Refusal Weekend, alcohol and drug testing, awarding to Erica Landers in the amount of $73,480. If approved, we're also requesting contract approval.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
And the fourth and last item is regarding RFQ number 2019-225, an annual contract for HVAC testing, adjust, balance, and professional services, requesting approval to conduct negotiations with Air Balancing Company and Compost Engineering.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Let me ask you a question. I want to go back up to 3. So, are we awarding the contract to the district attorney's office?
This is for the district attorney's office.
Who's Erica Lander?
She's the RN that will.
She's the RN that will be.
Conducting the phlebotomy.
So she's
testing.
coordinating all of that?
Yes.
So she's then contracting probably with other folks to take care of doing the draws at the different stops? Okay, that's what I needed to know. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Mr. Skinner.
Members of the court, we are requesting your consideration of a change in scope related to a project that is funded in the 2006 Transportation Bond Program, specifically Raglan Road. On February 9th of 2016, the Commissioners Court approved the reallocation of transportation bond funds from the Great Southwest Parkway extension to Raglan Road. And in your packet, you should have a document that is change in project status. So basically look like this. And you will see the original project scope that was approved at that time. The city still desires to improve Raglan Road. However, they want to construct the road in 2 different segments. So segment 1 will be an improvement, a widening of Raglan Road as a concrete section from SH 360 over to Lloyd Park.
And segment 2 will be a reconstruction of the 2-lane Ragland Road, continuing, I believe that we have a distance in here, but it will be a realignment of a 90-degree turn. So there will be a safety improvement associated with that change. And so the Tarrant County Precinct 2 crews will be constructing segment 2. Segment 1 will be constructed by the city. And what the city is requesting the county, aside from the Precinct 2 involvement, is a reallocation of the bond funds for segment 1. And so there will not be an increase. The city is not asking for an increase in bond funding, just a reallocation of those funds to segment 1.
There's a letter in here as well that Mayor Jensen sent me, just talking a little bit more about it. But.
What is it where are you reallocating it from?
Originally, the project scope, as included in our bond program, was $360 over 2, and including the correction of the 90-degree turn. So we're really originally looking at that longer segment. But again, with Precinct 2's involvement with the segment 2, they're asking those funds to be reallocated to segment 1, and those costs with the concrete section is over $3.1 million.
Okay.
So our involvement is still at less than 50%.
Okay.
But so there's no increase in net cost?
Not to the county.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Commissioner Johnson, I believe you have an interlocal agreement.
Has this been approved by the DA's office? Yes. Move approval of item 901 A and B.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve item 901 A and B. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Are there any appointments today?
I have one, Your Honor. I've passed a copy out to everyone. For the Tarrant County Historical Society, Harry May Hill. And I move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Is it May or Max?
Max, I think.
Is it May or, okay.
May is what I have. Max is what he's put on the bottom of this. Harry Max Hill.
Okay, Harry Max Hill. Yeah, I see May on the first. Yeah, but it's Mary,
just
Harry
didn't
Max.
finish his
Okay.
X.
Appointment approved unanimously. Any other appointments? Court members, you have before you the claims, including the addendum.
Move approval of the claims, including the addendum.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. There being no further business, wait a minute.
Not quite.
So, we're just about ready to wrap up the budget process. I think after the court provides direction, you'll make your official decision next week, but we do need to talk about the tax rate. And what we would like to do is to get an affirmative sense as to where the court wants to be on this, simply because we have to prepare the final documents for the budget, which is next week. So I can repeat, if you'd like for me to talk about the current rate, the 1/2 cent reduction or the 1/4 cent reduction. I think we've already had that discussion. We can continue it. Just like to have your direction, please.
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
We can't make a motion.
Well,
I mean, that's what we're doing next week.
This is not going to, it's kind of like everything else in the budget. We don't officially adopt a tax rate, or we don't adopt the budget until we take the formal vote that we have advertised, which is September 10th.
So I guess it's kind of a straw poll.
Pretty much so.
As is.
As is.
As is.
We've already got the 3.
lucky last, I guess.
Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and ask Helen to come up and give you some final documents for some corrections on the budget.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yes, ma'am.
Hey, how are you?
So what Candace has pressed out is the changes that we've made since the last time we were here last week. The very first item is, and this is all with anticipation of the rate staying the same, the salary decrease that you see is in the county administrator's office. That is removing the request for the senior staff attorney grade 17.
So there's no attorneys going
No,
to
sir. There's no attorney in the county administrator's office at this time. No request for one. The next item that you see is in non-departmental. It's been spoken about a couple of times today. It's a compensation allocation. When we finish and finalize the budget, we take that, as Judge Whitley has already explained, we take that out of non-departmental and disperse it throughout the county into the various departments. What happens when we do that, it looks at what has happened currently with employees. It gets as close to the active rate that there is, that the employee's making. So when we've pushed it out to the various departments, it now has, and the statement down below that says all department structure and merit, that is now a $9,567,000 item, a decrease of $167,202. And again, it's looking at current salaries. We try to get it as current as possible, and that's why the reduction is there. People leave, take promotions other places. So we're reducing the compensation allocation. We're removing the compensation allocation in non-departmental. Because of the same concept that we just talked about, the transfer to the Road and Bridge Fund was decreased $2,414 for the exact same reason. The structure and merit went down $2,414. So it required the decrease in the transfer to Road and Bridge. That with the addition of cash, there is an increase to the reserves of $1,645,275 for a total net impact of $1,332,869. $32,869.
So what you just said again. Oh, I see it. Never mind.
Okay.
I got you.
I failed to put net impact, I'm sorry.
So I guess the one question that I have, given the previous discussion that we had regarding our juvenile facility.
Yes, sir.
Is that you're going to go back and scrub, and we're going to do everything we can to whittle down that number.
Correct. For this fiscal 2020.
What are we going to do when that number comes back to us? And let's say we have to add, we do know it'll be over a couple of years, but since our auditor is going to have to attest to the fact that we got funds set aside for that when we sign those contracts, when are we going to have to put that money to that contract or to that number? And I'm assuming it'll come out of undesignated.
Undesignated or reserves. And or reserves. I do not know the final number from facilities at this point. So it will be in your presentation of the approved budget. We'll make note of it, so we'll let you know what we went forward with. And we'll get with the auditor's office and facilities to make sure that we have the best number out there.
So by that, do you mean we're going to have another capital item that is going to slip into this budget between now and next week? that is going to approximate somewhere in the vicinity of 8 million and maybe a little less, and that will be in our capital number that we'll approve later on, along with our reserves going down.
I would agree that you will have to have a funding source. You will be able to enter into the contract. That doesn't mean that that funding source has to be the one that you ultimately use, say 2 years from now, but in order to enter into the contract, you would have to specifically set aside and you would have to encumber those funds. I can certify if the money's available or is reasonably expected to be available in some certain near term. Obviously, not having any idea where the money's coming from, I couldn't certify.
And so all I'm saying is between now and next week when we get here, let's make sure we're all
on the same page,
comfortable with where we're going.
Because that transfer can occur mid-year.
It can, but again, you have to know where it's coming from.
Right.
And like if we're selling debt, we were closing in October, for example, then I've certified in the past that the funds would be available even though they weren't.
Well, I'm assuming that David and his group are going to scrub those numbers, and they're going to come up with some sort of here's the contract, and we're going to go to the contractor, and are we looking at guaranteed maximum price? So somewhere in here there is, and probably near this side of the beginning of the year versus the end of the year, we're going to be asked to commit to a contract, to a go-forward guaranteed maximum price contract. And that could be before the end of the year, calendar year. And so at that point in time, we will have had to have identified that source of funds from somebody or from some place. And whether it be reserves or whatever, we're going to, I just remember the grief that we had when we decided we were going to use $6 million to buy a Chase building.
To buy what?
To buy that parking lot down there that we have. And so since we're anticipating it, let's just get it in there and, make sure that we're not going to create tremors as we go through the year.
The capital budget is not approved until the last Tuesday in September. We'll make sure we have it in there, but the transfer is in the operating budget. So yes, we will get with the auditor's office and facilities and have a beginning road path next Tuesday.
Thank you.
So
can we identify the source of those funds without actually encumbering the dollars?
I don't think I would feel comfortable with the money not actually being reserved for those. You can always unencumber and encumber another source. But when I certify that, I take that very seriously because my understanding is the best bet you have of ever getting out of any contract is if I haven't certified the money. Because once I say the money's available, then we're committed, pending all other contractual terms. And all I'm suggesting is I take that very seriously, so I have to set that money aside, but I'm always more than willing to unencumber and encumber other sources. But we would need the money at the time Mr. Phillips was going to enter into the contract, and as Helen's saying, the operating reserve that would be necessary would need to be in this year's budget in advance of entering into that contract.
We can figure this out.
Next Tuesday.
And we can include whomever you like. We can certainly include the DA's office in those discussions as well. But I personally feel very uncomfortable in not setting aside those funds as we do all monies when we certify funds. We know where that money is and it's encumbered or reserved for that purpose.
So leading up to next Tuesday, when would we receive whatever the final recommended budget based off of the tax rate?
So this year will be a little different in previous years because of legislative not being able. We have to know some information in advance, so we will be sending out probably next Friday. Through SIRE, you will receive the electronic and one book so that everybody can review it. And then when you vote next Tuesday, and in that, when we send it out, we will also let you know where that money is prior to next Tuesday, where we have identified that everybody is in agreement with.
And I'm assuming there will be a notice in there about how much money we plan on spending on lobbying expenses?
That actually has our, that is supposed to be with the proposed budget that we already have out there. So there is a statement that will probably go up onto the website either tomorrow or Wednesday or Thursday. And yes.
And that's not broken down by department, that's just.
No, sir,
county?
it's two statements, one saying that we do not contract with any lobbying service, and then the other is the combination of all departments travel to Austin or any other dues that there are associated that could potentially be any type of a lobbyist for with those dues paid. And it will be for the 2019 because we have to have the 2019 actuals, and then we have to have what we're projecting for 2020, and it being not a legislative year, it is reduced.
Any other questions at this point in time?
Just a comment. I want to congratulate Helen and her department for coming up with a budget that we can act upon under very difficult and changing circumstances. You've done a great job.
Thank you. Staff has been very well, done very well.
I have a comment also, not particularly for you, Helen, but which you have done a great job, so thank you. Not that I necessarily have anything to compare to, but it has been as a very interesting process for me to go through, especially being new to the court. And just in all fairness, since everyone else had shared what their position was on the tax rate, I said lucky last, but I didn't want, to make sure that my position right now is that I'm undecided. So just wanted to make that very clear for everyone. So
thank you.
Any other business to conduct at this time?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
We are adjourned.